no matter how much effort I put into this, I might never be able to do it.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the 4th episode of the Fitzness Academy podcast. It's been a minute, but obviously it's been manic. I'm back over in university. So obviously there's been a bit of a gap, but we're back. And no better person to start with once again than a good friend of mine, Stephen Whatley. Obviously, Stephen is the junior gold medal Commonwealth Games champion at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, obviously, because it's not going to end again. So obviously he's going to look to defend that, hopefully, fingers crossed, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll get into that again. It's fantastic to have you on, mate. Good friend of mine, Stephen, I've known for a long time, and I've been wanting to get him on the podcast for ages, but obviously things have been a bit tough at the moment. So Stephen, welcome, mate.
Thank you. I'll blame you for the delay.
Yes, of course. By all means, blame me. Obviously, this podcast was actually meant to be filmed 5 minutes ago, but I'll give you a little bit of a hint, guys. Stephen was doing his hair for the last 5 minutes, all right?
I was.
All right, so obviously I can be blamed, but we can blame as well. No, I'm joking. Nah, it's all good. So, Stephen, obviously, I don't know if you've seen the podcast before, but I've obviously told you, your joke, mate, your joke. You need to start. Let the people judge you based on what you are like as a joke teller. Go on, mate. Go on.
Well, I thought, seems I'm known as a chess player, I thought I would go with a classic chess joke, which is today I was playing chess and I blundered a major piece. It was an absolute rookie mistake.
Do you know what that is? That is a good one. I'll give that one to you there. I'll give that one to you. That's made me laugh. Fair play.
I feel like you have to be able to play chess to know the joke though. So maybe
it's good. It's a good one though, because it's not too complex. So then actually I'm not a fantastic chess player, but I know exactly obviously what a rook is. So obviously that's a very good start. Good start, mate. The people
all of you is like
the people won't judge you.
Mind. I'm glad you liked it.
Fantastic, mate. Obviously glad to have you on. We'll carry on with that chess vibe, obviously known for in Gibraltar as the chess master. So tell us a little bit about that, mate. Tell us about your chess mastery. Tell us about where it started, mate. We'll go over to the fence after that.
That's a big question. Shall I start with where it started then?
Go on then. I'll let you lead. This is what it's about. I'm not interesting.
I was 4 years old and I was at a New Year's Eve party and I just saw some parents' friends playing, and I was like, that's really cool. I want to learn how to play that. And my parents were like, no, you're too young, because I was only 4, and we didn't realize till later that you can't actually start that age. But anyway, I pestered the life out of them for 2 years. I was like, every day, when are you going to teach me chess? And then when I was 6, they taught me. They took me to a Cheers Cafe here in Gib and bought a little magnetic board and just taught me the moves.
Right. That's class, mate. That's class, to be fair. Obviously getting into the sport that young, for example, for myself, it's kind of obviously in Gibraltar, we're obviously known for the football. So obviously it's fantastic, especially with myself, because obviously we played football, and obviously we've gone down that route, but it's good to see other people as well sort of diverge and trying other sports at that young age. I'm doing something at university at the moment where
we were in the same football team when we were.
Yeah, we were. I remember that back at, what was it?
Manchester United.
Fenmar, was it? Fenmar, was it?
What was that?
A Fenmar, wasn't it? Manchester United Fenmar, something like that.
I think.
Or Straits Overseas, that's the one. I think it was.
Isn't it? But now, before, I don't know what it was called, but we won the league and cup double. We were
that
year.
Oh, mate, I like the Invincibles back then.
I compared with the DVD and shown you.
Yeah,
picture of us when we were younger.
Oh, I'm gonna message my mum after this and see if we still got that DVD, mate. That's class. Anyway, sort of going back off the tangent again. Obviously doing stuff at university at the moment about how people are sort of diverging a little bit, or sort of focusing a little bit too much on one sport when they're younger. So it's good to see, obviously, with yourself, with the chess, obviously with the football, and obviously bringing later on, obviously we'll discuss it a bit more with the fencing. It's fantastic to see that you actually sort of were going to other avenues rather than just sort of sticking with the football, which is fantastic, because then if a lot of my friends from Gibraltar, if I talk to them about cricket, they'll 110% say, "Oh, it's like rounders," and that is so. Obviously,
good awareness of sport here.
exactly, yeah. So no, it's fantastic that you've done that, mate. But in terms of like sort of getting to that next level when you started to learn, but then being like, oh no, I'm pretty good at this, moving to that next level. What was that like next step for you? How did you get to that next step?
Well, I was very lucky that it came about at quite a young age still as well. And so I didn't have the life pressures of, like now if I suddenly got good at something, I'm like, oh, well, do I have the time and can I commit to this? And, just because life gets in the way. But I mean, 3 months after I learned the moves, I won my first competition.
Oh, wow.
And then 6 months later, I was playing in the British Championships.
Jesus.
So that meant that like I got to play at a very high level very quickly, which was sort of lucky in a way. Like I was young enough that it didn't bother me. I sort of almost didn't have any fear. I didn't really think about anything else. I was just enjoying the game and loving what I was doing, and that was all that mattered to me.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Because then at that stage, that was my next point. Because then obviously, when you're so young, you don't actually. I suppose it was maybe for your opponents at that stage. Were they a bit? Do you reckon they sort of maybe underestimated you slightly, which sort of made you that little bit more? I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
As well, coming from Gibraltar, which unfortunately we were, at least sort of before my era of playing, we were known for being really rubbish at chess at the British Championship. So I was the first person to win a single point at the British Championships.
Oh, wow.
Players had been before, and no one had ever won a game. And in my first year, I finished fourth, I think, or fifth, in the age category, obviously.
Yeah.
So it was sort of, I think when I turned up, people would just sort of look at with my Gibraltar tracksuit on and that.
Oh, it's another Gibraltarian.
Look at me like, who is this kid? Like, some random bad player who I'm going to beat in like 5 minutes.
That's so fantastic. That's fantastic. Sorry, no. It's as in like it's fantastic. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's fantastic.
I was just going to say, I think.
Carry on, mate. Carry on.
Sorry, there was a delay. I was just going to say, I think that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of personally, is putting Gibraltar on the map for chess. Is that of all the things that I, any championship or anything, what I really appreciate the most really is that now Gibraltar is not seen as, they must be rubbish.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I like, as you can see, team from like obviously very patriotic. Yeah. It's fantastic to even if sort of you don't play the sport, like I don't really play too much football anymore, sort of competitively. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. It's fantastic. It's fantastic to see the teams sort of progressing and like sort of obviously I was obviously same age as Stephen. It's difficult to sort of, it was at that time very difficult to sort of see Gibraltar outside of Gibraltar. So it was obviously
it's very much a bubble, isn't it, Gibraltar?
It's being a bit older now, being a bit older now and being able to do this podcast with you, it's fantastic to see that how much you put Gibraltar on the map, which is fantastic. But then leading on from the chess, obviously the fencing, how on earth did you get to fencing? I'm interested. How, maybe football to rugby or cricket to whatever.
It's quite the change, isn't it?
Where on earth did you get fencing from, mate?
It was right place, right time. There were many factors. So it wasn't just chess. I mean, I'm a black belt at Taekwondo, and I got my, I forgot that you might not know that. But yeah, basically I'm a black belt at Taekwondo, and I got that when I was 12. And that was just before I went off I got a chess scholarship to a school called Millfield when I was 13, which you'll remember.
Cardiff, I've just played against Millfield actually, so it was
Have you really?
I recognized the school.
Yeah, you're not far away from them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you'll remember I left in year 9. I left Bayside in year 9.
Yeah.
And that was for that to go and sort of, I essentially left home at 13 to sort of pursue my chess dream. But they have sort of all sorts of sports, but the one sport they didn't have was Taekwondo.
Okay.
And so I wanted a sort of combative sport that could replace it. And I always thought fencing was really cool. I used to love Zorro, and as you do as a kid, like love sword fighting and everything. So I was like, what, I'm gonna give it a go. And when I tried it, I just loved it. And I think I was I was very lucky because of the sports that I had done, because being from a place like Gibraltar, where you try every sport when you're younger, you must have been to everything, or even been to like foosball club, like everything. And because I took sport very seriously, chess wise, I had the sort of the mental tactics I've been training. I felt like I've been training more than my opponents for 10 years because of the mental side of it. And then the tennis and taekwondo combined, those physical attributes and football just meant that I was sort of physically ready for it as well. So I was very lucky that it's sort of right place, right time, really.
In that sense, then, do you reckon that sort of, because I speak about it a lot. I speak about it a lot in terms of being physically prepared is 10 times easier than being psychologically prepared, because then at the same time, if you've not got that I'm not going to say mental strength, because mental strength I think comes with time and practicing mental imagery, all these things. So do you think that it was, like you said, you took to it like a duck to water, really, didn't you? So like, do you reckon at that stage then it was more about psychologically getting used to sort of fencing as a new sport in your arsenal? Because obviously you, like you said, being sort of used to sort of like the chess environment, the taekwondo environment, where it's very mental. It is, isn't it? What you're going to throw next, what piece are you going to put down next? Do you reckon that it was more difficult physically or psychologically, like to adjust?
I don't think, because when I was well, I'd like to think I still am, but especially when I was that age, I was very physically fit. Anyway, because of all the sport I was doing. So fitness wasn't a problem, like physical fitness wasn't a problem. And I was very, like you say, I was very lucky because of the chess, that the mental tactics, working out trying to suss out your opponent wasn't a problem for me either. But so, I mean, there are lots of transferable skills across all sports, I think. But the main thing was the technique and sort of the feel for the sport. Like any sport, there are techniques that are very specific to that sport, that no matter how good you are at another sport, you need to learn how to do within that sport. So I think, and I still think in a way I'm catching up in terms of that technique and all those the finer details of a fight when it gets to 14 all and you're sort of and one small touch gets it, things like that.
That's fantastic, mate. Obviously, like I think that's fantastic about you, because obviously, like you said, like those small little bits which are gonna sort of help you when obviously the fight gets obviously into the latter stages, where those 1 points will count. In terms of that, then, is that maybe is it very difficult in that stage? I know, for example, in cricket, once you get to those basic skills, improving like 1% every single day is what I love to talk about. Is it pretty difficult? I find it very difficult at times, when you're like, well, I'm having a good run of form, or I'm feeling good, but then how can I improve? Do you reckon, has that ever been sort of a hindrance to you where you don't know where to improve, or has that always been like no, I know exactly where to improve every single time you step onto the onto your next fight?
No, completely. I think you're right. I think any sportsman that tells you that they've always known where they were going and what they were doing is lying, really, because I just don't think you can. There's got to be a time. I think that's the strength of it, really, to become that sort of professional athlete or professional level athlete. You have to have been. It takes strength to get there, because you have to have been through those times where you're like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I focusing in the right place? Am I trying my best here in the right place? Am I going to the right competitions? All these things, you don't know the answer. You just got to do your best and hope that you're working towards the right thing. I think my ethos with that, though, is that if I'm trying my best, at least, then I can't punish myself too harshly.
So you're more, are you sort, that's the thing. I think I've struggled with that in the past, where sort of the punishment thing kind of thing is like, oh damn it, I've not done it, your 20 press ups or whatever, or 10 squats or whatever, or like in cricket when you bowl a wide, you do 5 press ups or whatever. But in that, for me, I think I've kind of adjusted outside of that, because I think at that stage when I was a little bit younger, I was like, oh, I need to be perfect. And then where it's unfortunately, you can't be perfect.
You can't be. Yeah, you can't be. Yeah,
you can't be perfect, and that's what you want.
I'm very much a perfectionist, so I feel you on that.
Yeah. So, but moving, mate, that is fantastic to see. But moving, like, keep on that same subject of the mental struggle, because obviously knowing your journey, obviously some bits with the Fitzness Academy which are coming soon, which we can't mention just yet, but in terms of your struggles that you've had, because everyone has struggles. I think everyone has struggles in their life. It's very naive to think that no one, like me walking down the streets and seeing someone and thinking that they've not had any
They've got a
struggles
perfect
is
life,
a bit naive of me. So, and I understand that obviously you're doing sort of, was it biochemistry and neuroscience, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, I think everyone or some people at our same age or has had the struggle of choosing universities, etc. Obviously, you being at Millfields, it was a bit difficult to talk to you about that at the time. But obviously, obviously understand. Obviously, you just missed out on St Andrews, was it? At the
Yeah, so I had an offer for medicine at St Andrews, but unfortunately life got in the way as per usual.
Yeah, no, but that's what I wanted to talk about, obviously, because
Okay, cool.
life is not easy, I think, and being on the straight and narrow is very difficult. And I think, like, I saw a quote which was very similar, like life is like a road, and then I was like, that is 110. I'm going to be very polite and say that's 100% wrong, rather than say another word. I think life is like a very, very bumpy A4 or like an A1, like that's a road in Britain, by the way, if anyone doesn't know. It's a very bumpy
left, right, and
tarmac.
center,
Yeah. So in terms of that bump that you had, mate, in terms of what was, I believe it was obviously the head injury that post that you struggled with, obviously, what if you don't mind sort of speaking about that, obviously, I'll let you speak about, I'll let you take the lead again, if you can speak a bit more about what happened, mate.
I mean, one thing I was going to say, leading off what you were saying about, no one's sort of got the perfect life and hasn't got any struggles. I think social media can be very deceptive, and I sort of sometimes I second guess myself before I post stuff on Instagram. I'm like, am I actually giving an accurate representation here? So I do try at least to. So feel free to keep me in check if I'm not, but I do try to at least talk about some real issues like my head injury, thing, to show that everyone is struggling the same way, and just because you see some supermodel looking
exactly
fabulous,
that's why
doesn't mean that they're not struggling as well.
Exactly, that's this, and some of them struggle more than you think, and then that people are shocked, when tragic things happen. I think it's tough to say, but you see, what was it? Obviously, I don't watch it, unfortunately, but obviously, a few Love Island contestants, I think, if I'm not mistaken, have unfortunately committed suicide. But then it's such a shock because they don't display that.
Because you think they have the perfect life.
Exactly. And I think
I'm going off on a tangent, but I just thought it was worth mentioning.
No. 100, mate. This is not, as I always mention, this is not a podcast. This is not an interview. This is not an interview. This is this is me sitting down and chatting with the people that are in the same field as me. And I think that's fantastic to lead off, because I think so many people I've watched. I've been in isolation for 10 days, by the way, if anyone doesn't realize that. So I've watched a lot of Dr. Phil. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
So, and I was watching this thing where someone was saying how they want to become the next YouTube star. They want to become the next, social media influencer. I've got 2,000 followers or whatever. I don't know if you saw, Stephen, actually posted a picture where when I hit 1,000 followers on the Fitzness Academy channel, thank you very much for that, by the way. I haven't said that before on the podcast. It was cool. It was fantastic, but it wasn't something that made me think that I need to stop working hard, if that made any sense, because obviously I was working just as hard on the Fitzness Academy and just as hard on my university, before I got to university and before I had 100 followers, let alone 1,000 followers. So I think a lot of people are like, type into Google, how can I get more followers? And I've definitely done that before. It's definitely happened. But I think nowadays, and before starting the Fitzness Academy, I was a bit naive in that. And I think now I'll put a little snapshot of where of the video that I did like an IGTV, an Instagram TV post talking about it's okay not to be okay. And that's saying I saw that. So it happens. And I did that because, and I didn't, that one was something where I cared about how many views that it got, because I wanted more people to see it.
You wanted the message to get out,
exactly. And I think it got the most shares that I've had, which was the goal. But I wasn't so fussed about. I never say, "Oh, please like, please, please follow, please." I just want to get the message out.
It's not healthy, I think.
Exactly. I never want to, and I never want to become this influencer kind of thing. It's always about me spreading the message about fitness and about health, because I'm always, and it's about mental health as well.
I think in a way you do, in the sense that that's what an influencer should be.
positively
sort of,
influencing. I get what you
positively
mean.
influencing,
Yeah,
sending
exactly.
out the right message, not
Exactly.
the Instagram influencer that says buy this and buy that and like
Exactly.
this and
No,
like that.
definitely not. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's a very good point, mate. That's a very good point. So I do influence. I do influence people in terms of how they exercise. So I apologize for that,
in
Steve.
different ways.
Steven's embarrassing me on my own podcast. Steven, what the flip? No, I'm joking. Nah, obviously that's a fantastic point. Obviously, I do influence, and I like to think that I influence a lot of people when I work back in Gibraltar and I do my classes and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and even with the podcast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hopefully some people will see this podcast and want to become the next chess champion in Gibraltar, the next British champion, the next gold medalist,
Get
in
in
the
touch
Junior Commonwealth. No, but all seriousness.
Yeah.
So I think that's fantastic, mate. And obviously you influencing as well the people there. You know, I've seen your posts. You always talk about it as well. I see your stories as well, where you try and get the chess community out there, which is fantastic. I try my best to answer, but I have no idea what I'm doing, to be brutally honest with you.
To be honest, it's just a bit of fun because I think people's, at least before this year, see chess as this very sort of geeky thing. You have to be super intelligent and you have to like concentrate loads, and it's like, sure, if you want to be professional, sure, but you can enjoy the game whatever level you're at, and I think that's the same with any sport or game. If you enjoy the game, that's the main thing. So I've been posting these things just to get my followers sort of engaged and doing something a bit fun and a bit different.
That's fantastic.
It's good for your brain, at least.
That's fantastic, mate. That's fantastic. In terms of like sort of getting it out there, isn't it? So like I do the same with cricket. And I think it's fantastic. Moving on, mate, because obviously I'm very intrigued to hear about it. Obviously, that issue, the
head injury.
You had.
Okay.
Talk to us a little bit more about that in terms of what happened. If you don't want to say what happened, that's fine. But obviously, like sort of how tough was that sort of in terms of the road after? Because obviously everyone sees the injury. In football especially, everyone sees the injury. He's gonna be out for a while. But then no one sees the months and years after that. Yeah. So talk to us, mate. Talk to us. It's all yours.
Yeah. Well, no, I like to think I'm fairly open, try to be pretty open with it. And I did give a Jib Talks on it, which can be found on my YouTube.
I did watch that. So I'll put a little bit of a snapshot there, and I'll leave the link in the description, team, by the way. So go to the description.
But yeah, I mean, so to cut a long story short, essentially I was, to quote John Lennon, which I think I did in that talk, life happens when you're making other plans. And and that was very much a place in my life where I was making other plans. I'd just got my predicted grades of A-star AA. I'd applied to St. Andrews. I just about to get an interview. I was on the day of my accident, was preparing for the morning where I was going to be sitting my medical entrance exam. So I was sort of all set. I had, everything planned. I set myself some big goals, which I talk about in the video. And I just about pretty much just on the day managed to achieve all of them miraculously. And then bam, I had a head injury, and I was elbowed in the temple at a normal fencing training warm-up session, simple game. I was elbowed in the temple and knocked out. Only briefly, which was sort of a little bit worse because then they didn't realize that I'd been knocked out either, because it was brief and then I was back again. And then unfortunately, because no one really realized how bad I was, I didn't sort of get the proper aftercare straight after the accident. And they say they don't. I ended up being diagnosed with something called post-concussion syndrome. So you have a concussion, and then
I've heard of this.
After, basically post-concussion syndrome is any period after, say, 3 to 5 days of a normal concussion. Anything after that, if you're still experiencing symptoms, that's post-concussion syndrome. But that can last 2 weeks to 3+ years. And I still have symptoms from that, much more minor than when they started, but they're still there. And in terms of what you're saying about sort of that road to recovery, I think a lot of people here, sounds sort of almost arrogant, but I'm very well known here, obviously, for chess.
Yeah, of course. No, go
And
ahead, mate. No, mate,
and
blow your own trumpet, mate. You deserve it. Oh, just swore
No,
on my own
but
podcast. I don't have to bleep that out. But mate, go ahead. Honestly, mate, you deserve it. Go ahead.
I get stopped in Main Street a lot, and people ask me, oh, you're still playing chess, how's things going, and oh, when's the next win coming, and I get all these questions. It's really nice, it's very nice, but for pretty much 3 years, and I still don't know really how much longer this is going to go on for 3+ years. I've not been able to play chess the same way.
Because obviously you've had that impact, haven't you?
Because of the head injury.
It's crazy.
And I don't have the stamina that I used to. In terms of, I used to be able to sit there for 10 days straight, playing, 16 hours a day of chess.
It's crazy.
And now unfortunately, at the moment, I haven't tried very, very recently, and I think I'm getting better and I'm working towards it. But right now, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that again. And that's sort of quite tough to admit.
Yeah.
To yourself, not necessarily on here, but just that moment where you go, oh, I might not be able to do this anymore. Was that very nothing about it?
Was that a very quick sort of realization, or did that come like sort of maybe sort of a year after, or a month after, or sort of maybe 2 years after?
I think it's a very slow process, definitely. I think I had a fairly good understanding straight afterwards, because my dad had 2 major head injuries about 20 years ago.
All right.
Just before I was born, and so sort of I've seen the after effects of that through my dad, and you certainly wouldn't know to meet him. But obviously, when you live with someone, you see what someone goes through when they're recovering from a head injury.
You see him all the time, so you know the differences, I suppose.
So I think, from a practical point of view, I understood it and I accepted it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there was only so much that I could do, and that all I could do was my best to recover, and that was the priority. But it's in my nature, again, as I spoke about in that talk, but it's very much, as you know me, it's very much in my nature. I push myself a lot. I try to achieve things that other people haven't before. That's sort of just something I try to do naturally.
Yeah.
And that wasn't helpful to my recovery. As in, that made it that made it more difficult
to admit to it. Yeah.
In terms of recovery, because I was like, well, I can't do that anymore. I can't push myself, because I'm going to make myself worse.
Yeah.
And even if I do push myself, I probably can't reach that same, and I might never be able to. And I don't want to be pessimistic.
Yeah.
But it's that moment where that is very difficult to accept. That moment where you go, okay, I'm never going to be the same person again.
That's
because
crazy, mate.
Even if I can achieve that again, it will be in a different way. I won't be able to do it the same way. As I will have to have new techniques for concentrating. I've had to learn how to memorize things for exams all over again, because I can't memorize it the same way.
But I think you're the one that will actually benefit from thinking that way that you just said, because obviously you've said that you realize that you will have to, because a lot of people, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. When they get injured, they think, I'm just never going to be able to do this again, or I have to learn like this. Where you said, you'll have to. In terms of the, some people might get confused, but I think you admitting and sort of realizing, sorry, that's a better word, realizing that you'll have to learn a new way, and that way is fine. I think you are the one that obviously will progress a little bit quicker, because obviously you've thought about it and you've realized that, and then you just crack on, which is fantastic, because obviously I've got that hunter killer mindset where you always want to improve. And in terms of,
I sort of making it sound like, oh, it's just easy, you just think like this and that's it. But this is years of like
that's what I'm trying to stress. That obviously
this has been
everyone's different,
especially of realizing, okay, this is, and I've had tough days where I'm like,
I can imagine, mate. I can imagine.
What's the point of trying with
exactly
this if I just can't do it anymore? I just I might, no matter how much effort I put into this, I might never be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that's very demoralizing.
Oh, for sure. Especially like physically as well, because obviously I always speak about it. Like obviously everything links together. So whether you're struggling up here, it'll link into the work you do with your shoulders, with your biceps, your triceps, whether you're just in the gym, or whether you're fencing, whether you're playing cricket, or whether you're playing football, whatever, so I think people need to understand everything's interconnected. So then in terms of leading on from from that, what is next for Stephen Whatley? Obviously, like you've said that obviously you are obviously this is going to be a long process. Of course it is, but then obviously I respect that how you've said that. But what is next for Stephen Whatley? Obviously, you've told me before, but I want you to say it yourself because it's big. But I definitely believe you can achieve it. So
Well,
go on, mate. Go on.
Well, I mean, I said I was trying not to be too ambitious, and then I went and tried to be ambitious anyway.
Everyone needs to be ambitious, mate. Everyone. Without ambitions, no one can improve.
But just to stress that I am fully aware that I might not, no matter how much effort I put into this, I might not be able to do it just because of the way I am now. And that's just something, you know, you have to accept. That's life, I guess. And people have it a lot worse than me, so I really can't complain too much. But anyway, the ambitions. So, I mean, in terms of fencing, the plan is that I am going, I've been selected for the Commonwealths, the senior Commonwealths next year.
Get in there, mate. That's
you.
Fantastic. I didn't know about that. You had already been selected, bit, so I'm very glad for you, mate. Just made me smile, mate. Fantastic.
Thank you. And then for the sort of longer term goal is to make it to the Olympics for fencing. That's fantastic, the real one. And I mean, ideally the Paris 2024 Olympics, but if not, then the LA 2028. But the goal is Paris 2024.
That's fantastic, mate. Obviously that will be obviously with COVID, obviously that's been difficult, obviously in terms of having those goals obviously being pushed back. But I think that's better in a way, because obviously for you, obviously in the time it's been tough, but obviously realizing that you're just going to get those more opportunities in terms of obviously the games, hopefully fingers crossed they don't get pushed back. Obviously the Birmingham 2024, 2022, I think it is 2022.
2022,
2022 Commonwealth Games, which, you know, obviously is next year. So that's fantastic. And obviously having the Olympics obviously coming up in the next, I think it was 97 days, 96 days. I think I saw something on Instagram a couple of days ago. So it's fantastic. I think it's no better time to be motivated. So speaking of being motivated, Stephen, because obviously that is a fantastic goal. And I definitely think, like I said, you can achieve that. What motivates you? I'm gonna ask you too, because obviously we're running a bit out of time, but obviously I don't care. It's my podcast. No, I'm joking. So what and or who motivates you? Whether it's fencing, chess, doesn't have to be anything in particular. What motivates you and who motivates you to try and get to those goals and trying to progress, even if it's 1% better every day, like I like to say?
I think it's funny that you asked me that question, because I did an interview like last week and I was asked that exact question. So I've almost had time to think about this.
That's my question. I'm going to copyright that question, mate. What the hell? Watch the podcast. No, sorry.
Well, I mean, I think the first motivation has to come within yourself. And of course, you're going to have influences and you're going to have people that motivate you. Mm-hmm. But if it's not in you, when the going gets tough, you're going to give up because it's not what you want. So I think, you know, like they say that about medicine, don't do it. And don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the prestige or anything. Do it because that's your vocation. That's what you really want to do. Because when you're sitting there, and it's the same with chess or fencing, you know, when I give you a brief example, when at the Commonwealths, when I had the first day of competition, the day before I got food poisoning. And I was laying
Give this man a medal. What the flip? Give this man a medal. What on earth? Stephen, mate, blinking it.
I was in bed, cramped all over my body. Couldn't eat anything, could barely drink anything. And you know, when it's that tough, when you've worked that hard, you know, I'm coming back from a head injury, when I worked that hard just to be there, and then something like that happens. You know, I think it's moments like that you're going to give up if it's not in you. And that's what I'm saying. I think the motivation, and I find a lot of inspiration from the younger me. The sort of there's my favorite quote, and it's why I play sport. It's my favorite quote, and I might not get it right because it's long, but essentially it's along the lines of all the coaches that have pushed you, of all those tournaments and the hours that you've practiced, the games that you've played, the experiences you've had. Remember that little boy inside you that played because he loved the game,
mate.
And you should play. You should play for him.
Exactly. No, that's it. That's literally what they were saying, wasn't it? About the obviously go on a fantastic tangent here, but like they were just saying about the European Super League or the Super League, whatever it's called in football, how that league would just be played for the money and not for the love of the game. So obviously going back onto you, but there's another example in case any of you.
No, it's a very relevant example. You're right.
That's a fantastic quote, mate. That's a fantastic quote. I love that quote because obviously there's I think we can both agree on that because obviously we're at a stage at the moment where we're still playing for the love of the game for sure, because obviously we're not millionaires, because if not I wouldn't be sat here in no, of course I would be sat here, but obviously like, you know, getting hold of Stephen would be 10 times harder than it already is. So obviously he's a busy guy. So but obviously we're still playing for the love of the game, and obviously that's what I love about it. And that quote, I'm actually gonna put that quote at the bottom there because that's fantastic. In terms, just carry on, mate. Go on, mate. I'm just gonna retire here. Just carry on, mate.
I'll send you this. I'll send you the succinct quote so you can put it at the bottom. But yeah, it's
fantastic. Thank you, mate.
It's my favorite because it's what I play for when it gets tough. I'm like, no, if the young me could see me now, I'd get up and I'd fight for it because that's what I want. And that's amazing. That's who I am.
That's amazing.
And so I think, in answer to your question, that's the essence of it. But if I wasn't playing for me, then it would be for my parents and my coaches, because like I couldn't put into words the amount that my parents have supported me, and like I'm sure, you know, everyone's parents, but you know, I think any sportsman has to have that backing, whether it's a parent or a guardian. You know, even if you're coming from both, you have to have someone who's there, who's there for you, because it gets tough. And that's my parents for me.
That's fantastic.
So if I wasn't playing sport for me, it would be for them.
That's incredible, mate. That's incredible, because obviously linking into that this last point that I've had in terms of passing, when obviously hopefully won't be for a long time. Obviously we're still young. Blinking heck, I'm already thinking about retiring. What the heck?
I'm fed up of working already.
Right, see you later. Retiring later on down the line. This is fantastic because it leads on fantastically to my last point before we end. What obviously, leading from your parents, your coaches, even yourself, leading on until you retire through your career, what is the best piece of advice? I'm going to tell you now, because then you can look back on this in however many years time, hopefully it's a long time, and think, you know, what is the best piece of advice you can give at the end of your career? But to finish, what is the best piece of advice right now that you can give to someone younger, who's a young fencer, a young person, or anyone, even an older person, because we can still influence the older generation. And I think I would like to think that we're doing so. So what is the best piece of advice that you can give to anyone watching, mate?
That's a good question. I would say a big motto that I think has done me a really, really well over the years is, if you're thinking whether you should go for something or not, do it and worry about it later. Because if you don't, and it's that big an opportunity, if you don't get up and go for it, you're always going to think, what if? And that's a horrible feeling.
Regret, mate. Regret.
And that's why I went to Millfield. But that's why I went. I didn't want to leave. I love Gibraltar. I did not want to leave Gibraltar. I didn't want to leave my home, my family, my dog. You know, at 13 years old.
That's crazy,
but
mate.
I had a dream to you know, go and get titles and go to world championships and things like that for chess. And if I hadn't gone, I may not have got to those world championships, and I may not have won those things.
That's incredible.
And I would have if I hadn't, I would have always gone, what if I'd gone?
Yeah. The what if, isn't it? I think there's another quote which is like, you miss 100% of the chances that you don't take, or something like that. Yeah, which I absolutely love. Obviously it's not one which I use too much in terms of sort of, because I'm always one who takes opportunities, because, you know, I never have to think twice about it. I always and
that's my problem. I say yes to too much then.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I'm like, okay, this, that. Oh, geez, that's what a lot of yeses.
Yeah,
but I think that's fantastic, because then we can finish with that quote, because obviously then you can go to someone and whether it's now or in 30 years, you can say, simple that this, I said it 30 years ago, obviously hopefully it's longer. It's, you know, I said this 30 years ago and I'm going to say it now. You know, don't say no to an opportunity. If you really want to do it, there's obviously something inside you, again, looking at sort of intrinsic motivation. So saying,
I think
do it.
Sorry.
Do it.
Yeah, I was just going to say on a day-to-day basis, I think it's even relevant because, like, essentially what I'm saying, I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm not giving advice from a point that should be given advice from. I'm just saying that I think for me, the things that have worked for me is just believing in yourself, and not believing in yourself should not be a reason to not go for that opportunity. You should believe in yourself and do it, because if it's what you want to do, you're not going to be happy until you do it.
Exactly. And just going to be worse off afterwards, isn't it? When you don't do it. So Stephen, mate, that is a fantastic point to
Follow
end
your
on.
dream, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic. Follow your dreams. It's nice and simple. Keep it simple.
But it's true.
Mate, I want to thank you for coming on, mate. Obviously, we've gone on a bit of a tangent. I said 30 minutes. It's been about 45. So, but hopefully this has helped someone. This has made my day, mate. Obviously, it's obviously made my week, obviously being here in isolation. But thank you very, very much for coming on, mate. I'm glad we finally got to do this. It's been fantastic to catch up. Thank you very, very much, mate. And obviously you can find all of Stephen's links in the description below, team. So make sure, give him some love and support him. Obviously, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see him next year at the Commonwealth Games.
Thank you very much.
See you in a bit, team.